From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
If you let down your guard, better brace for the storm that's coming in.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show is one game against a really lousy opponent, but a lot of y'all think Luke's the future. Is that the case? How should Mike handle things moving forward? The Hoops team, 6-1. Get out of Ham's way, everybody. And we're kind of contemplating what might happen this weekend when the Gators come to town for the season finale. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code Warchant, BOGO. Warchant, B-O-G-O. What happens when you type that in to the promo field over at VitaminEnergy.com? Corey Clark, it escapes me sometimes.
I think you get one if you buy one free. I think I screwed that whole thing up. You buy one if you get you know what? You buy one, you get one.
Free.
Free, correct, right. You buy one at full price, you get the second one for no price.
Absolutely free.
Right.
Can't believe it. Incredible. Give it a try, everybody. Shake it and take it. Vitamins, nutrients. How does it give you 7 hours of energy, Aslan? Simple. 260 milligrams, all natural caffeine, no sugar crash, delicious flavors, interesting varieties, all sorts of things that help enhance your day. Again, the focus, your mood, your workouts, hydration levels, immune response. Give yourself a little help with a little flavorful shot from Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Again, promo code WarchantBOGO. Warchant.com. Still think the 150 deal is going on, Corey. That's 1 week, $1, and then 50% off an annual membership, which is incredible. Not quite $1 for a year, but that's never, ever, ever coming back, like a famous philosopher once said. So this is about as good as it's going to get. I shouldn't say that. This is as good as it's going to get. So come on home. Recruiting news, 6'7" JUCO receiver on campus. Quarterback brought into the class, state of Texas, Denton Geyer High School. Let's go. Shout out, whatever that mascot is. All the news you need to know about recruiting, which, by the way, what, Corey, 8 days as people listening to this? 9 days?
And then 9 days until National Signing Day begins. Yeah,
we typically have had like a live show going from 8 o'clock in the morning all the way through the Jeff Cameron show. But I don't know. We'll see how that looks. We'll see how that looks in a few days, how we're feeling about all that sort of stuff. Corey Clark in the house, though. How are you, Corey?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Hey, it felt good to watch a winning football game again. It's been a minute, been 2 months since that had happened, so that was fun to watch for all involved. And now we are, 6 days from the end of this? 5 days, I guess, from the end of the season.
Well, Florida State, I was going to say they're undefeated against teams that start with the letter C, but they lost to Clemson, so 2-1.
Take that, because they're, what are they, 0-8 against every other letter. Yeah. So, all right, fair enough. Florida does not start with a C.
They do not.
No.
They do not. All right, well, let's get to it then. Florida State takes down Charleston Southern on Saturday. Second win of this downright awful season. But, hey, it's a win, 41-7, again, over the Buccaneers. The shutout was intact, but then you brought in some backups, which is, I had no problem with it. I know a lot of people are a little feisty, a little disappointed on the message boards to not be able to have that notoriety, that distinction to cap off a fairly enjoyable day, homecoming, fantastic weather, et cetera, et cetera. I guess really the only thing to talk about, and I don't say that, I'm not trying to denigrate anything else going on with this team right now. We can talk about coaches and we'll talk about basketball maybe later. I shouldn't say maybe, we should talk about basketball for sure later on, Corey, but I think it really comes down to Luke Kromenhoek and him starting the game, what that means, him breaking the rock after the game, what that means. I just feel like right now Luke Kromenhoek and the way he played against Charleston Southern is like a Rorschach test. Some people look at it and they're like, whoa, hey man, potential franchise quarterback if we can get him the right ingredients. And then some people are looking at it like, nah, I don't know, man. That's a bridge too far. Can't really judge too much against the competition he went out against on Saturday. Where are you at right now, Corey? Is it a Rorschach test for you, or do you know what you have in Luke Kromenhoek now?
No, you absolutely don't know. There's no way you could know after that performance. I thought he was pretty bad to start the game. I don't think there's any way to deny that. He looked uncomfortable. He didn't look confident. and that was not against a good defense. Obviously, I mean they're good for they're not even good for FCS, but they're better than their offense, I guess. But that throw to Ja'Kai that I wrote about and talked about in the Warchant wrap, not the one for the touchdown, the one when it was like 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 11 after the fumbled punt, because literally that would have been like the 4th straight drive where they hadn't scored a touchdown against Charleston Southern, and he was letting the rush get to him again, but he stood in the pocket there. It wasn't a great throw, but it was a great decision. He saw the guy in the middle of the field, found him, completion. They scored a few plays later, and then the route was on. There's some stuff to like. He's a tough kid. He runs hard. He can take hits. He withstands hits. I don't know how many he can keep withstanding, but he withstands hits, and he made some really nice throws, man. But I wonder about the rush. Him inside the pocket is what concerns me. Outside the pocket, I thought he was good, fine, something to build on. Inside the pocket, still not enough. But it's like, man, I don't know what can you expect when you don't get a pocket very often, and you're not used to having a pocket. You don't trust that the pocket will hold up. I get looking at the rush and kind of getting a little fidgety and moving your feet a little bit when you could stand in there. But I just wonder what that's going to look like Saturday, because I didn't see anything on Saturday against Charleston Southern that makes me think that he's going to do anything of note against Florida. But this season's over anyway, and I'm not expecting a win in that game. I would love to see some growth, but it's just hard to judge that kid with what he's got around him right now. But I like the competitive spirit. I do like some of the athleticism, some of the throws. There's some stuff there, man. There is some stuff there. It's just, I would like to see a little more poise and confidence in the pocket, but I completely understand why I don't.
Yeah, I mean, athletically, I think he's able to make all the throws, but some of the throws just look downright terrible.
Yeah, they come off the hands wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that's. Look, he's playing as a true freshman, and I brought this up before on this show. I saw Jameis in that one open practice we get to watch every year. We got to watch every year with Jimbo, and I was like, I remember looking at him because yes, he was a 5-star quarterback, but nobody knew what he was going to be. Florida State had other 5-star quarterbacks that didn't really pan out, so we weren't expecting a Heisman. And I remember watching him in that open practice, which was like the second week into the fall camp, and I'm like, really? Look at this guy's motion. This guy's going to be good? Really? Like he had a weird wind-up, kind of a funky delivery. He still has a little bit of that, but he got coached out of that. And I think there's some stuff with Luke where, it's just reps and it's constant coaching. And I think the arm strength is definitely there, but sometimes it comes out of his hand funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes he kind of winds up a little bit when he throws it. But again, I think that's, he's a true freshman and he's playing, Division I football. You hope that's stuff that gets better the more he plays football and the better coaching he gets.
Him starting on Saturday, does it mean something beyond just a mere start and you kind of gave Brock ample time to win this job over Corey? Because I do wonder, a guy of his stature, Kromenhoek, that had some 5-star notoriety, Elite 11 guy, and you kind of give him keys to the team, at least – mom and dad are out of town for more than a weekend. He's getting 2 games to kind of let loose, if you will. I find it hard to imagine a guy like him gets handed the keys like this. Maybe it isn't being handed the keys, but gets the opportunity to start these 2 games, and then he would be okay with you bringing in somebody that is going to be considered a shoo-in to start ahead of him, like in the transfer portal. I mean, how are they going to manage him? Starting him against Florida, having him start against Charleston Southern, does that mean they plan on managing him as the starting quarterback moving forward?
I mean, that's the impression I get, right? Like, I don't know. What would have been really interesting is if he doesn't complete that pass to Ja'Kai, and then Fitzgerald has to come out and attempt a 50-yard field goal, probably makes it. So they're up 6-0 with, 6 minutes to go in the second quarter against Charleston Southern, and they've had 4 possessions and scored 2 field goals. I do wonder if Brock Glenn would have, because he had just taken a sack. He had just taken a sack, or there was a bad play or something that made it 3rd and long, and he had taken a sack on the previous possession, and then when they punted and fumbled, he came right back out. I thought if he didn't have a good drive there, I think there's a chance that Brock Glenn comes in the game. But he did have a good drive. He made the throw. It ended up going in for a touchdown, and then they let him run with it. So the fact that they let him run with it leads me to believe, and this is just an opinion, I haven't talked to anybody about it, they absolutely want Luke to be the guy. Because Brock never got a chance to run with it, except against Clemson. But he never really, and that was actually, he played well that game.
He did.
For him anyway, or for this team, I should say. He played well. But, since then, he hasn't really gotten a chance to run with it. Now, he did have 3 straight turnovers on 3 straight plays against Duke, and since then it's been back and forth. So I think they wanted to give Kromenhoek a chance to have a full game. So I think they want Luke to be the guy. I think there's no way to deny that. But, have a couple 3-and-outs and a pick in the first 3 drives against Florida with 2 sacks or 3 sacks. And then you might think twice. You might go back to Brock. I don't think Brock Glenn's story is done at Florida State.
Oh, I do.
Necessarily.
How's it come back, man?
The reason I say that is because I don't know how the Florida game is going to go. If Luke Kromenhoek struggles in the first half against Florida, and they have 9 yards after the first 4 drives, and he's still wearing sacks and seeing the rush, not seeing downfield, looks rattled, looks unpoised. I absolutely think if it's like 6-0 or 10-0, they let Brock Glenn come in the game.
Yeah, but I still think once the season's over, I think they go into spring putting all their momentum behind Luke. I don't think they see
even
Brock
if he
in
got
that
benched in the last game of the season.
Yeah, I mean
that I agree with you. But if he gets benched, and this is a hypothetical,
right.
I don't know that you're like, okay, this is the guy we're going to ride with, the guy that we just benched in the last game of the season. So, what if Brock Glenn comes out and plays well? But then you've got there's some stuff to determine, and also I think we both agree there's a better than average chance they're bringing in another quarterback that can play immediately. I don't think Luke has done enough to just say we're putting all our eggs in that basket. Next year is too important, man. It's too important to have a kid that just looks just doesn't have the poise of a typical good college quarterback yet. But again, how would he? We know who he's playing with. It's hard to have poise. I know it sounds like I'm criticizing him. I am to a certain degree, but I'm also doing it understanding that it's very hard to operate like a calm presence in the pocket with this offensive line blocking for you. But it's going to be fascinating, man. I do think that right now, as we sit here, Luke is the guy, and Brock is probably the one that transfers out. I mean, Luke is the guy that probably stays. But again, the show after the Florida game, I think we'll have an absolute firm grasp of what's going to happen, because there is a chance that Luke plays awesome. Like, what if he goes 21 of 30 for 246 and 3 touchdowns? Stop laughing. It could happen, folks. If that happens, then you absolutely go into the offseason, Luke's your guy. But what if he goes 4 of 13 with 4 sacks and a turnover? And Brock Glenn comes in and at least looks competent. I don't know. It's an odd situation, buddy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they will process and kind of grade. It's a 6-5 Florida game, but it's the Florida game. It's one of the 2 games that Norvell circles on the calendar, Florida and Miami, ahead of Clemson. So if you can come out and really show something, that probably goes a long way towards cementing things for the future. But I just imagine when they recruited Luke, I mean, hey, we're going to bring you in true freshman. We're going to probably bring somebody in from the portal, DJ Uyunglele, and we're going to bring you along. And then, DJ's obviously a 1-year rental. And then after that, I don't want to say it's your program, but you're going to have every opportunity to show us in spring that you're the guy. And then we go into fall camp and 2025 is all yours. I just wonder, and he's a very confident kid, and I don't think he's cocky. Maybe just mildly cocky. I don't think he's arrogant, I should say.
I would love for him to be cocky and arrogant. Those are usually the best quarterbacks. But I get what you're saying. Go ahead.
But I think it would be a bit of a pill for him to swallow if he ends up either wearing it against Florida or playing mediocre-ish. Nothing like the 21 for 30 you talked about, but they stick with him the whole game because Brock's not going to do anything better, so why not just give him the reps to develop and stuff. I wonder if he would be able to kind of look in the mirror and take stock of himself and be like, okay, I'm not on the plan they laid out for me. I'm not on the schedule that I wanted to be when I came here, and that's okay. I have 15 practices in the spring to fight this guy off and still make it mine. Or would he be pretty disappointed in what they told him and where his reality is, and then would he look for something else somewhere else? And because I don't know if anybody would look at whatever he's put on tape here and be like, ooh, we've got a good team. We've got a good offensive line. We've got good receivers. And, we saw the way he performed when he has everything kind of lining up in a fairly positive direction. We'll bring you in here and try to make you our franchise quarterback. But I don't think anybody on the level of Florida State would do that. So I'd hope he would stand pat.
Yeah, but, the thing that we know and we have to discuss is that, a lot of it will depend on who the coordinator is and what kind of offense you're bringing in. Because if you're bringing in a coordinator of any consequence that's actually going to bring his offense into the fold, he's going to want to say in the quarterback. And he might not like either of them. Or he might think Brock is the better fit for his system. I don't think the story is written on either one of them. I honestly don't, and I'm saying this, I'm first guessing and I'm saying it before the game. I don't think Luke gives you the best chance to beat Florida. I don't think you have a great chance either way. But, you're a 15-point underdog or 14-point underdog. You're not a 40-point underdog. They are beatable. I don't think Luke gives you the best chance just because I think the pass rush will affect him too much. I think Brock Glenn is a little bit more mobile. They're both athletic.
Really?
Brock Glenn's a little bit more mobile.
Luke is elusive, man.
But he's still wearing sacks. He got sacked 3 times against Charleston Southern, I think, maybe 2. He got out of a couple. But, I'll just say this, and I'm not a Brock Glenn fanboy. I don't really have a side. But his one throw in the middle of the field where he just stood back in the pocket, looked, and ripped one in the middle of the field to LaWayne McCoy, to me was about as impressive as anything Luke did all day.
I agree.
From a straight quarterback perspective, that's how it's supposed to look. Kid's open in the middle of the field. I'm not panicky. I'm looking. There he is. I throw it. And he's just as good an athlete. He has a propensity for some turnovers, it would appear. But I think right now his ceiling, just for this week, I feel like his ceiling to make some plays is a little bit higher than Luke's. But it's 51-49, and I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. But, again, you want to beat Florida, obviously, but you want to figure out who your quarterback's going to be. Saturday is just another data point coming up. Let's see if because I know Luke had the big run against Miami. I wasn't overly impressed with what he did in that setting. Were you? Wasn't overly impressed with what he did against North Carolina. No. Again, I wasn't either with Brock, but I'm not convinced just because Luke played decently against Charleston Southern on his last 4 drives that he's the answer for Florida, and he's the answer moving forward. And look, man, I think both of us would agree if they get their feelings hurt because your new coordinator is bringing in a quarterback that he is convinced gives them a chance to be really good next year on offense, and you hurt their feelings and they both want to leave or do leave, oh well, man, I don't think you're going to be lamenting that. I mean, you might later on, but I don't think either one of them have proven enough where you're like, oh gosh, no, don't leave. You know what I mean? I just think that there might be a whole reset with this offense. I liked what Luke did. I hope he does stay. I hope they both stay. But the odds are they won't, especially if you bring in a new quarterback. And I don't know how you don't go to the portal and get a new quarterback going into 2025. You can't wear a bunch of lumps again next year. You just can't get all lumped and beaten to death again next year. You've got to have a bounce-back season. And I don't think either one of these guys has proven that they're the guy to lead the bounce-back.
Bounce back from your weekend with the Monday Blues with a lunch special offering over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cptallybar.com, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Half-pound black Angus beef burger. Comes with a side dish of your choosing as well, all for only $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Don't forget tomorrow, trivia night, 7 p.m. Tuesday, and taco all day long. Tacos, plural, not just one. Tacos all day long. Beef, chicken, soft shell, hard shell. One of these days I'll say soft tortilla, hard shell, but today's not that day, everybody. Enjoy that. Thursday night, trivia, 4 rounds, $250 cash up for grabs, each round of bingo. And then obviously the billiards, the darts, the golden tee, the ice
probably
cold
not Probably not bingo this week since
right.
it's Thanksgiving,
Right.
But there will be trivia on Tuesday.
Yeah. Thank you, Corey, for correcting me on
you got
that. So focused on Christmas. Got the Christmas lights up yesterday that I totally forgot. It is
Look at
Thanksgiving.
you, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. You got a tree?
Not yet.
right.
That'll be after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
See how it goes.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
probably going to go home, hang out with my mom.
Okay, all right. We'll tell her I said hello.
Will do. You tell Sharon I said what's up as well, if you don't mind.
I will. She's probably listening.
Yeah.
She's listening. So
Sharon!
you tell her.
Sharon, hope you're doing great. Miss you. Don't miss us next Saturday or this Friday. The Fridays are going to be meet and greet, Corey. Black Friday.
There is, but you know what? I'm making an executive decision, not even talking to Jeff about it. We're pushing it back to 6.
Ooh, all right.
The 5 o'clock doesn't make any sense. People are slow rolling into town. The Georgia Tech game starts at 7:30 on Friday, so that'll be fun to watch. So we'll do it, and I don't want to be there all day and night. I love CP. It's just not good for my sanity. Not even my sanity. It's not good for my liver. To be there starting it that early. So I feel like I'm going to push it from – it's going to be 6 to 7, and we'll roll right into some big-time college football. Maybe a big upset with the ACC, SEC.
Let's hope. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant. It's presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, promo code warchantbogo. We mentioned it at the end of the last segment, Corey, but – I don't know. I think maybe part of Mike thinks he can't let this kid go, and that would be Luke.
Yeah.
Again, like I don't think there's really been anything in practice overwhelming, but maybe it's a different thing he's looking at. He's talking to Luke after plays, maybe in the meeting room. Luke is giving him some real good feedback. The games, maybe some of this elusiveness, the sneaky athletic ability, his speed, his durability. Again, I mean, he's not wearing shots from all SEC caliber players, but still, I mean, he was getting knocked around and popped back up and had no slow get up after taking and absorbing all those hits. I just do wonder if there is part of Mike that thinks, I don't know for sure about this kid, but man, I cannot risk losing him and then him going somewhere else and blossoming while we spin our tires here. I think we're going to have to see, obviously, where the quarterback market's going to be, because when we talk about them going in the market for getting a portal, Corey, or getting a quarterback in the portal, I don't think they try to get game manager DJ part 2. I think they're going to try to, I would imagine, I can't imagine why you wouldn't try to go after some complete program-changing, dynamic, NFL can't-miss prospect if he's going to be available in the portal.
Well, for sure you'd go after one of those. I don't know that they'll be available, or that Florida State, after going likely 2-10 with one of the worst offenses in the country, even if you bring in a new coordinator, is going to be appealing enough to get them. It's funny you bring that up about the quarterback market, because I was talking to some people either Friday or Saturday. I don't remember. Oh, yeah, it was Saturday, because it was after the UNLV game. And did you watch the UNLV game, by the way?
I watched most of the first half, yeah.
So if you guys didn't, and I think some of you did, because you know that Marion is certainly on the short list of potential candidates, I know they only scored 26 or 27 points. I was more impressed with that offense after that game than I was going in, because it is a sideways, disgusting rain. And you know what? He has built a offense that just says, I don't care that the weather's bad. I don't care that nobody can catch right now. We have no passing game to speak of. We are going to manhandle you and run it down your throat, and we're going to do it. It's just going to be like a visit to the dentist office, man. You're going to hate the next 3 hours, because we're just going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. I think they ended up with, I don't know what they ended up with, 27 points in 350, 360 yards of offense. But over 200 yards rushing. They had 3 running backs, I think, that were close to 50 yards or more. One guy, they have a really good sophomore running back, by the way. If Marion comes, he needs to bring that guy with him. I think I think his name's Jet Thomas, maybe. He's good.
Jaden Thomas.
Okay, yeah, they call him Jet, though, which is a good nickname.
Very good nickname for a running back.
For a running back. So yeah, man, I just
he's from the A, by the way. He's from the A.
Well, then he needs to come back to the South.
Yeah.
Get out of Vegas. It's not healthy for you. The way they manhandled that team, and San Jose, it's San Jose, I get it. But again, UNLV doesn't have an Alabama or Oklahoma offensive line. It's a UNLV offensive line. But those guys are conditioned to just batter teams. And they pushed them all over the field. And the reason I bring that up is because just for argument's sake, and I really don't think Castellanos is on the radar. I don't think he's coming here. Maybe he is. I don't know. I have no inside knowledge. I also don't know if you want a guy that quit on his team. But when I was talking to some guys about that offense, I'm like, man, he made that offense work with a guy that doesn't throw the ball really well, but he runs hard. Castellanos in that offense as a kind of run-first, traditional, real-life, dual-threat quarterback. That running game could, it could average 200-something yards per game. In 1 year, it could make that kind of leap. You've got to get a running back quarterback that is a running threat, perhaps. And if you do that, man, so that's my point. When you talk about dynamic, I just want a dude that can move. I want a dude that can move. I think Brock Glennon and Kromenhoek are both those guys. But, I feel like Norvell wants to be more of a pro style. Like, let's develop these guys for the NFL, and I don't know that that's the answer to go get yourself a probable NFL draft pick for next year. If you're bringing in somebody for next year, it needs to be a dude that is, I think, mobile, can run. You don't mind running him. He'll stick his nose in and get you some positive yards. And maybe those two guys are already on the roster. But I watched that game, and I was like, man, that is a physical effing football team. That is a physical offensive football team. It's raining sideways. San Jose State the week before had thrown for 450 yards against Boise State. In that game, that quarterback was like 4 of 22. It was just impossible. But yet UNLV still managed to go score 3 or 4 touchdowns and score almost 30 points because they can run the ball and they can mash people. And it's only been year 2, and he's already built that kind of mindset and toughness. That's what kind of intrigued me and made me even more of a fan of what he's done there.
Yeah, I do. Going into it, I was thinking there was going to be a lot more exotic looks. It's the go-go offense. These got, they run pistol 2 backs and just stuff that you don't see traditionally. And it didn't seem to have a lot of that.
No.
Their motion was part of it, but, everybody, blends motion. And I feel like we haven't seen a lot of it this year from Florida State, but maybe I just kind of mentally have checked out of some of these games. But I do wonder how much of that is him as offensive line coach, like creating a mentality that you have to get behind to be able to get on the field, or I know it's hard to believe, but maybe they just have better offensive linemen than Florida State has. That
is hard to believe.
You can maybe bring a couple guys with you.
I think they're coached better. I absolutely think that, but it's hard to believe that UNLV has better offensive linemen than Florida State. But hey, it could be the truth.
There was a play around the goal line. I think maybe on that first scoring drive that Florida State had, where I think it was Cam Davis, and he should have been able to score an easy touchdown. He had a lead blocker ahead of him too, and it was T.J. Ferguson. Ferguson completely whiffed on the block, and they pointed out watching it live. You're like, what just happened there? He had a big guy in front of him, and for some reason just went down at the line of scrimmage still. And they showed it on the replay, and just those sort of things keep happening. And there's a certain point where I don't think Gabe Fertitta's coaching that, allowing that to happen. These guys, just for whatever reason, when it matters, are not doing a great job of their assignment. So. I think you have to start. It's not a big hot take here. I think you have to start from scratch on the offensive line, which is daunting. I heard you guys talking about on headlines where a really good quarterback, i.e. Jordan Travis, can make an average, below average offensive line look good. But then, Jeff was, dreaming the big dream about what it would be like to have like 5 maulers. And you point out, well, that's hard to go get 5 awesome guys.
Yeah,
they're going to have to get 5 good guys though, because I don't think you can really trust anything you have remaining here. Maybe I don't know if Rizzi's going to be able to come back, and I don't even know if that's really part of what you want to have going forward. Maybe he's different at center than he is at guard, but they look good, UNLV. But and I'll credit that to the play of their offensive line, as you said, Core. But again, I don't know how much of that's coaching and integrating a mindset, ingratiating yourself a mindset into these kids, and how much of it just hey. You can find some better guys somewhere else, and then they can play better. But hopefully he'll bring some of those guys with him.
I think 2 things. I think so. Whoever the OC is, if he's coming in to actually run his own offense, he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna want a pick of the of the quarterback. And I think, let's just say, for argument's sake, that Marion has already agreed to take the job, and that is absolutely hypothetical. Norvell he's probably watching the film. He's probably making his own opinions. Okay, that's the guy. Of those 2 guys, that's the guy I think I can win with. That's the guy I like, or that's the guy I absolutely do not like. Tell him he needs to go somewhere else. Those conversations could be already happening. He could already be forming his own opinion. I don't know that he's going to take a job, though, anybody, without knowing what exactly is going to go on at quarterback. So I think when you interview whoever you're interviewing at OC, and you say, and you're discussing what kind of system you'd bring in, what you're looking for, you need to ask them, what do you think of our two quarterbacks? Who do you like? And also the beauty is Norvell has worked with these guys. So he can give some insight into, okay, he doesn't process quite as quick as the other kid, but he's got a better upside. He's better in the film room, or he's really tough. They're both really tough. Whatever he wants to say, because Marion's not going to know what makes these guys tick. He hasn't been around them. Norvell's been around Brock Glenn for 2 years. He's been around Luke for a year. He knows these guys better, so I think he can give them a little window into how these guys operate, which is it's a plus. It's a bonus. And again, Marion, I'm just saying as the hypothetical. But going back to the conversation with Jeff, yes, you need to get better offensive linemen. But as you said, and I've made that point a million times, a good quarterback makes a below average offensive line look pretty good. Well, what's easier to go get? One dude?
Right.
Like if Luke Kromenhoek or Brock Glenn, we don't know what they'd look like with a really good offensive line in front of them. We have no idea what that would look like. But odds are it ain't going to be in Tallahassee next year. At best, you're hoping for an average offensive line. You're not going to have anything special when you get basically 3 weeks to put it together. So you're going to be probably still a bit of a struggle up front. And if that's the case, you need a quarterback that can alleviate some of that and is dynamic enough or good enough to make a bad offensive line or an average offensive line look pretty good. I think that goes into the calculus of who's your quarterback next year too. Because, look, man, if the same kind of offensive line comes back next year, Luke Kromenhoek can't play behind it. He can't. Who could? Not many. Castellanos maybe. The kid at SMU maybe, but not Luke Kromenhoek. So if you're not convinced you can go get a better offensive line than that slop we've seen for most of the year, well, then what is the point? You can't improve when you never think you're going to have a clean pocket. Every play he made on Saturday was rolling to his right. Well, that's not a way to be a really good football player and a really good quarterback long term. So if they're convinced they can go get a really good offensive line and that Luke is making the necessary steps, then absolutely, Kromenhoek might be the future. It's hard to imagine it's going to get that much better that you will feel confident and comfortable with that kid being your starting quarterback against Alabama to start next season. That's all.
Do you think there's so much going on? There's so many fish to fry? Back to the question from earlier. I mean, do you think that's maybe not even in the top five? Is it in the top five of things Mike Norvell has to think about? Is that if you lose Luke, he goes somewhere else and blossoms, or can you not really worry about that at all?
You absolutely can't worry about that at all. You've got to worry about, is there a guy out there that you're convinced, and you better not be the guy making the sole decision like this last year with the quarterback you brought in. You've got to have somebody in your corner that's helping you, that's somebody you trust, that's giving you better opinions than you got last year making your quarterback decision. But no, you have to solely worry about 2025, and you have to solely worry about what gives us the best chance to win in 2025. And if you hurt feelings, you hurt feelings. If Luke Kromenhoek goes on to be a first-round pick in 2 years and people laugh at you for it, all right, man, okay, that sucks, but was he going to develop like that here? So, you've got to figure out who gives you the best chance to stay on the field against Alabama next year and go win you 7 or 8 games in the ACC. Right? If you think it's Luke, then make sure then it's Luke. But it can't be I'm not going to bring in a quarterback because I don't want to hurt Luke Kromenhoek's feelings or Brock Glenn's feelings. If they're not good enough for you at the start of next season, go get somebody that is. And I mean, like, if you don't think they're going to be good enough at the start of next season, go get somebody that is.
Yeah, no, I think it's less about hurting feelings. I think it's more about you don't want to look silly if in 2026 you're getting fired midseason and Luke Kromenhoek is the starting quarterback for a top 15 Tennessee team or something,
I think I hear what you're saying. I would say this though, and I don't mind being on freezing cold takes. I've been on there before.
All right, I thought you had some trauma about that. That's why you always straddle the fence and hedge everything.
Oh no, I don't care. I don't care. No, I couch it because that's how I feel. I don't. You know what I mean? When I have a strong opinion, I give it. But if there's a lot of gray area in life,
a lot of variables going on around.
Do you think any Florida State fans watching that guy right now, do you, Aslan, think he's going to be an All-American first-round pick from what you've seen out of him the last 6 weeks?
Probably not.
Okay, well, yeah, right. And you were at practice too. So if that is to happen, while it would be, and you're getting fired 2 years from now anyway, yes, that would be embarrassing and it would be a horrible look. But the hindsight will be a problem. But right now, it is what it is. You've got to go find a guy that is a bridge. That is a leap to make from what we've seen so far, that he is going to be a first-round NFL quarterback. But he certainly has the measurables, man. And he's a bright kid. He's big, physical. As he said on Saturday after the game, he was taught to be the hammer, not the nail. I love hearing that from my quarterback. Man. I love everything about his persona and what he brings to that position off the field. It just is, it's just a matter of, growing up and maturing. But I don't know that you can't worry about what it might look like if he ends up being awesome if you don't think he's the right guy to start 2025. Again, though, I say all that, my man might go 21-30 on Saturday night, Aslan. But the fans might be rushing the field as he kneels down for the third time to secure the 30-23 win over the Gators. He might outplay DJ Lagway. It could all happen, buddy. Yeah.
Speaking of, again, as Corey said earlier in the show, Florida State, Florida. So that's a 7 p.m. kickoff, ESPN2. Is that going to be a 7 or a 7:30? Thanks, Bristol. We get 30 minutes of our evenings maybe back somehow. Probably not. 7 o'clock, still a late kickoff for your guys that actually do this for a job and living and stuff, but we're not complaining. 3 times before here. I'm sure it goes way back. For whatever reason, this database on this website only goes back maybe 30-ish years, 25-ish years. Florida State's been an underdog 3 times previously since 2006 at home against the Gators. They're 1-2 against the spread, 0-3 overall. The overs hit 2 out of the 3 times, for whatever that's worth.
What were the years? So 06 they were underdogs?
By 7.5, which they covered because it was 21-14.
Yeah, there you go. And if Michael Ray Garvin doesn't step out of bounds on the kickoff return, who knows?
2008.
That was tough.
Yeah.
16.5
was a spread. And then 2018.
Yeah.
8.5 points was a spread.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. DJ Lagway I haven't really paid attention to any of the games. Other than the Tennessee game, I watched that, and I was like, and that was enough for me. I'm like, all right, they're playing this good in this situation against this team with everything going around them. Like, they're going to be a problem for us.
Yeah.
And Ira made a good point about we'll see how they're going to look after they wear a bunch of these losses down the stretch. But they've won a bunch of these games down the stretch. So, they have confidence. They've got everything going in their favor right now. But it is in Tallahassee, so I guess that's something you can kind of cling on. But again, I thought they played so well in Knoxville. And that's a much better team than you are. Sorry. Yeah. And that's I'm telling you what, man, Tennessee being okay, not even great, but like Tennessee being good in a year where the SEC, there's so much upheaval, that fan base is emboldened, and they are low key. They're Mount Rushmore obnoxious fan bases.
Okay.
But I guess maybe they've been out the spotlight for so long, so they're really enjoying it right now.
It's been a minute. Yeah, I can't wait to see how many 3-loss SEC teams get into the playoff. I was joking with Ira that Florida might get in. They're going to try everything they can, or at least they might be ranked with 5 losses. Yeah, man, Florida has played better than Florida State this year. That's not of any dispute. They're a better team. They're a better defense. They're a better offense. I think when Ira and I talk about, or when Ira especially talks about how he's not that big a believer in the Gators, or he doesn't like hearing us talk about how Florida State quits and Florida doesn't, Florida plays hard. And I think Urban Meyer said something like that too. Look, man, anytime somebody talks about a team quitting, they're always talking about the defense. Always talking about the defense. Well, the Florida game at Texas, when they were down to their third-string walk-on quarterback against one of the best teams in the country, and they knew they had no chance of winning, all of a sudden the defense looked pretty dang horrible, didn't it?
Yes.
They were down 42-0 after one drive of the third quarter. They completely gave up. They completely quit. And the reason they quit is because they knew they couldn't win because the offense was abysmal. Well, that's what Florida State defenders have been living with the whole season. They've been basically the equivalent of having a third or fourth string quarterback running the offense the whole season. They know, like Saturday in South Bend, they knew they couldn't win that game. They would never admit it. They knew they couldn't win that game because the offense is so bad. Florida, when you have a quarterback like that, a quarterback you believe in, or just an offense that's competent, it does give you some life, man. It does give you some life. Should it work like that? No, but it does. And the reason I bring that up is because there is a chance. This is what I'm hoping for Saturday night. Because it is the last game of the season. There really is nothing to lose. You are a big underdog at home against a rival. It is a night game. There will be some juice there. And this Florida State defense could play really inspired. And if they play inspired, I'm not all that scared of the Florida offense putting up 60. You know what I mean? Like if the Florida State defense comes to play, it should be a game in the second half. The only problem is, even if it's 13-3 in the third quarter and you're right in the game, as soon as you give that offense a short field, as soon as it's a pick six or a big kick return or something, and they go and make it 20-3, it's a wrap. It's over because that defense will know they can't come back. It's one thing to know you have an offense that can go score some points. It's another thing to know if the other team gets to 17 or 20, the game's over. So that's all. But I am hoping that there will be an inspired effort. I do think there's a chance there could be. I thought they played hard against Clemson. I thought they played pretty hard against Miami. Then they did not play, in my opinion, very hard at all against North Carolina and Notre Dame. But Florida, the last game of the year, nothing to lose. It's your last shot for some of these guys. Most of these guys will never play football again at Florida State. Hopefully they leave it all out on the field, and it's at least a competitive, close game in the second half, which I think it could be. But your offense is still your offense.
Yeah, that's my thing. I mean, can Florida State win this game scoring 21 points?
Yeah. Can they get to 21? No, I'm saying, like, yes, it would have to look a certain way. You'd have to hold them to field goal attempts and get some turnovers. But, yeah, I think they could hold Florida to 20 if things break a certain way. My bigger issue is, can they get to 21 points? Because that's the thing that's been troublesome all year. That's the thing that's been almost impossible all year.
We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code WarchantBogo. Warchant, B-O-G-O. Very hurt, very disappointed. My guy Lane Kiffin can't believe he had a whole extra week. Extra week. Could only put 17 up against the Gators. But again, it was in the swamp. So maybe, as Corey said earlier,
that's an ultimate choke. That's an ultimate choke job.
It's sad.
It's an absolutely ultimate choke job. The giving it to the 300-pound lineman on 4th and 1 twice, I think, is just too cute, man. It's just too cute nonsense. I know they lost their badass receiver at halftime, but or in the second quarter. But come on, man, he's just Ole Miss. Always going to be Ole Miss.
Yeah.
You know, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous to lose that game. Just choked it away. Now, I guess there's still a chance they'll get in the playoff because it's the SEC. But I would rather Alabama get in than Ole Miss get in because that was such a choke job. All you had to do was beat Florida, and you're in the playoff, and you couldn't do it.
Yeah. I still don't think Jackson Dart's a good quarterback. So it's almost crazy that he was in this spot that is Lane with that quarterback. But he chose to bring him in, and he chose to keep him around, so he's got to wear that. But, yeah, let's see here. I mean, Florida has not played a lot of games on the road, but they put 45 on Mississippi State, who might be the worst team in the SEC this year.
Yeah.
Only 17 in an overtime frame against Tennessee. 20 in Jacksonville against the Dogs, and 17 against Texas and Austin.
And really, that was zero.
Right.
They were down 49-0, I think, until they started, or 42-3, I think, until they scored 2 touchdowns in the last 6 minutes of the game, which they still count. But yeah, their only road win this year is Mississippi State. So they have not. But you know, Texas and Tennessee's, those are tough places to play. And look, I think that it's going to take it's going to take a very surprising performance from this football team from Florida State to, in my opinion, to even be a one-possession game in the fourth quarter. But it can happen. Again, this isn't the 1996 Gators. And quite frankly, I think Lagway has a chance to be awesome. He's not incredible yet.
He's productive, but his stats are not impressive.
Right.
But I'd rather be productive. But
yeah, but it's like the offense is pretty good with him, but it's not like he's putting this offense on his shoulders and just making great. I mean, he completed 10 passes on Saturday. They didn't win because of him, but they kind of did win because of him. His presence gives them juice. He makes a couple of plays on that I've seen every game on third down where he's being kind of tackled or he's close to being tackled and he finds a guy open for a 25, 30-yard gain. So they are going to run the ball. They are a physical team. They do run the ball, or they have run the ball against some pretty good defenses. Ole Miss has a really good defense.
They do. Yeah.
And I don't know what the final numbers were for Florida, but I feel like they ran decently against them. But you've got two defensive tackles that want to be NFL draft picks. Show up. They probably played a combined 14 snaps, not combined. They probably played a combined 30 snaps on Saturday against Charleston Southern. So show up. Show up and show that you guys should be in the NFL. Same with the DNs. Same with the cornerbacks. Like, come on, man, this is a good time. Yeah, show Florida that you're not just going to be steamrolled and just roll over and let them do whatever they want because they have a hotshot freshman quarterback. He ain't that good, not yet anyway. Yeah. So hopefully they can. I don't know. Hopefully they can keep it close and go into the season with some confidence. Off season with some confidence, Aslan.
They had 44 for 165, so just a shade under 4 yards per carry against Ole Miss.
Were there sacks?
Lagway's got -9, so that might have been some. They might have did they kneel it down, or was that the last play?
But he had -9 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's and he threw for less than 200. He completed 10 passes.
Yeah, he's not even completing 60% of his passes on the season. He's got 9 touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because you see their director of personnel tweeting out, "If you don't want to play for 2 in this environment with the rest of this team, you're crazy." And it's like, he's not, I don't know, man. He's not Tom Brady reincarnate. Like, he's not going to just throw you the ball 10 times a game. I mean, you're not going to go crazy, but
yeah,
they can do that right now. Yeah. What gives me pause, I just think about the 22 game where they had nothing. Did they play UCF in a bowl game after that? 2022, they really played their balls off against Florida State. I think Napier, as much as Mike circles this game, I think Napier also realizes how much is on the line when this team plays Florida State. So they came in and listen, I know Anthony Richardson's maybe a little bit more polished than Lagway is right now. Maybe he's not. I mean, I know he's a first-round NFL draft pick and he starts for the Colts sometimes, but like, they put the fear of God in you in that game for at least 3.5 quarters, and then you kind of were able to salt it away.
Yeah, heck, I think they had a chance to tie the game in the final 2 minutes.
Yeah,
because they called that crazy. I can't remember who the safety was that he ended up batting down the 4th down pass. It was a guy that didn't play a lot. His
Jarquez McClellan.
There you go. But they called him for a pass interference, which was a really bad call on the previous 4th down to keep that drive alive. So yeah, they had a chance in the final couple minutes, even though you had a 14-point lead in the 4th quarter. But yeah, man, look, you say what gives you pause. How about what we've seen the last 3 months? Gives me pause that they're going to be able to win this game. Florida's a better team.
Oh, yes.
They're a better team. But the beauty is, we'll see next year what it looks like. Again, this season, write it off. It's been a disaster. You'd like them to finish strong and at least play with some pride. But, if they do, if they don't, it ends Saturday night around 10:30. 10:30, the nightmare is over, and you turn the page. Sunday, it becomes balls out, figuring out your coaching. You're probably already in the midst of it, but aligning your coaching staff and your roster. Whether you win or lose, 3-9, 2-10, great. It's still an abysmal season. But 10:30, that's a wrap. That's over. Over the next week, you wish some people you wish them good luck, and then you move on and try to fix this flipping thing so it doesn't look anything like this ever again. And it should not ever look like this again. So, yeah, you get to Florida and then Alabama.
A couple things to ponder. Tulsa job came open. Tulsa is where Norvell coach Brennan Marion, who's the leading candidate, we think here on the hot board for Florida State's replacement and offensive coordinator for Alex Atkins being dismissed. Of note, though, he did interview for the job back in 2022, and they they gave it to Kevin Wilson instead. So maybe he harbors a little bit resentment over that. If he does get called in for another interview, we'll see how that shakes out.
Then it's back. Hey, if he goes to Tulsa, it's back to Longo.
Yeah. What do you think about this AP poll? I mean, I don't know how many shows we're going to do this week. We'll talk about that off air because it is the Thanksgiving week, everybody. But looking at this poll,
like a football poll, like the rankings.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that?
Well,
is Florida State getting votes?
No, but hey, we're a college football show.
Right.
To a certain degree, I know we're. So let's talk about hoops. Sorry,
there you go.
There you go.
All right.
What are they? 6-1, 5-1? What's Ham up to?
They're 6-1. First time they've been 6-1 since Trent Forrest's senior year, when they won the ACC regular season title, and I guess by proxy the conference championship since the tournament wasn't played. Yeah, man, they beat I think probably a decent Temple team, nothing special, but a decent Temple team on Friday, 78-69, and then on Sunday they just obliterated what is probably a pretty bad UMass team, coached by Frank Martin, by the way.
I know.
And Alan Edwards, Doug Edwards' brother, who Ham might have coached at Miami, but anyway, he's an assistant on that team. But I don't know that UMass is that bad. But Florida State made them look horrendous. As Frank Martin said afterwards, they looked like a rec ball team, and he'd never been more embarrassed as a coach. Well, man, Florida State is kind of making life miserable for a lot of teams. Not Florida, and they haven't beaten anybody exceptional yet, or maybe even good. But the way they play, they're fun to watch right now. They just are. The Ewan kid, I think he had 17 both games maybe up there in Connecticut, the Mohegan Sun, but he is just a unique offensive weapon, man. He is he moves like a guard. He's not a great rebounder yet. If he could finish at a higher rate around the basket, I think against Florida he was like 4 of 13. He misses so many easy shots right now. He's starting to get better at that though, as he did these last 2 games. He would have scored 20. He'd averaged like 22 a game up there. Like he is really hard to deal with, and he's a great passer. He has a great feel for the game offensively. And then you got a bunch of guys on defense that just fly around and try to get blocks and steals. They don't rebound well, and I think part of that is they're always challenging so many shots that it leaves offensive rebounds for the other team, and that's just going to happen. But by and large, man, they're more fun to watch, man. You think 2 years ago, you remember they started out 1-9? They were 1-9 to start the year 2 years ago. Last year they were 4-6. They were 4-1 and then lost 5 straight games, including blowing a horrible loss to Georgia in the ACC-SEC Challenge at home. But so just the fact that they're fun to watch again and they do play hard, it's just I don't know, man. It's a refreshing change of pace, and I really do appreciate how they're playing right now. And again, they have one of the better players in the country in Jameer Watkins. The Ewan kid is one of the more unique centers in the country. There just aren't many guys like him. I don't think Ham's ever coached anybody quite like him. And then the other guys are kind of role players that seem to enjoy their roles and play really hard, which again, that's a refreshing change of pace from some of the players that I will not mention that were here the last few years. So good, it's good, man. It's good to see. It's fun to watch.
Blindly looking at the stats, Florida State top 10 in the nation in turnovers forced.
Yeah.
Forcing nearly 19 per game.
UMass had 17 on Sunday.
All right. I don't know. I wonder if this only included games through the 23rd, so it didn't even factor in the game on Sunday yesterday. And Florida State getting to the stripe. 37th in the nation in free throw attempts per game.
Yeah, and they foul too much. That was one thing they certainly did in the first half on Sunday that was disappointing.
They 311th in the country going into that game. 311th in the country.
Yeah, they foul too much. But that's what happens when you're trying to get a lot of deflections and steals. You're going to be a little aggressive. Sometimes you get called when you don't do it. Sometimes you don't get called when you do it. But they are very in-your-face, aggressive, slapping, trying to get the ball away, and that will lead to some fouls. But, man, they're right now, it seems like when I say an old-school Florida State team, they're not like the turn of the decade, like 09, 010, those games that were like 46-43 and 52-48. They play a much they play a higher tempo. They run more. They're more fun to watch. But just because their whole sole focus is to make life miserable for opposing offenses. It's done in a different way. It's full court. It's trapping. It's trying to get deflections and steals. But they're they'll give up some points too, and they'll give up some offensive rebounds. But man, their whole focus is to make life miserable for the opposing offenses. It's so far through 7 games, other than Florida, who's it's probably not a coincidence that the best team they played is the one that they weren't all that miserable. But these other 6 teams, they've just kind of overwhelmed them, and that's cool to see. They haven't done a lot of overwhelming lately, Aslan. Even when they won some of these non-conference games in years past, it didn't look like this. So it's fun, man. And they got Western Carolina on Tuesday.
Who's more likely to make the playoff, the loser of the ACC championship game or Alabama, Ole Miss, or if Tennessee were to lose to Vanderbilt, they would all be 9-3?
I think the loser. I think SMU. So let's say SMU.
They're 8th and 9th right now, by the way, and everybody in the AP poll, which doesn't matter.
Which it doesn't matter. Miami beats SMU, so SMU goes 10-2. Well, man, yeah. I mean, you know what Sank you'll be saying, and you know who's going to get all the airtime on game day before the championship games. It'll be like, I can't believe you're going to let Ole Miss in, you're going to keep them out. They beat Georgia, and here are their losses. Meanwhile, you're going to let SMU in with 2 losses.
I don't think he can do that. Ole Miss's losses are what? Kentucky,
Florida, and
somebody else that was not good. That they shouldn't have lost.
Tennessee lost to Arkansas. But it doesn't matter because they're SEC teams, Aslan. They're SEC teams. So just by definition, losing to Arkansas isn't as big a deal as losing at home to BYU.
LSU's not good this year.
Right, but they're still LSU, man. It's still LSU. Alabama needed a miracle to beat Auburn last year. And look, here's what's funny to me. It's not funny. It just it still frustrates me to no end and always will.
Alabama's got Iron Bowl. Auburn beat A&M. So,
yeah,
I mean, they could have 4 losses, which would be an absolute kill shot.
Sure, but 3 losses should be a kill shot.
Absolutely, yes.
But it won't be because it's Alabama.
But also, we say 3 losses should be a kill shot, but this is also a 12-team playoff now. So it's unprecedented. We don't know really what the floor is for this configuration, this field. It's always been a 4-team thing.
Yeah, but what's crazy is let's say Georgia's in now. It's going to be Georgia and whoever wins the Texas A&M game. So let's say Texas beats A&M and it's Texas Georgia in the SEC championship game. Or let's say it's A&M. Let's say it's A&M Georgia, and Georgia loses to A&M. A&M gets in because they just won the SEC.
They got to buy.
Georgia has 3 losses now. Are they in? Because I would think you'd say yeah, because you don't want to penalize them for having to go play in the SEC championship game. Yeah. The reason Texas doesn't have 3 losses is because they didn't get to play in it. Yeah. The reason Alabama or Ole Miss doesn't have 4 is because they didn't have to go play in it. Georgia has to go play in it. So it's all goofy. But I just think, man, it just makes me laugh as I read Twitter, which I shouldn't. And people, all the national people and all the SEC homers are like, yeah, there's never been more parity. Winning is important. And this is a crazy year. Where there's so much parity, and it's like, you know what? Last year there was a lot of parity, and you would think that maybe people would appreciate teams that win. You would think that would be the overriding factor. A team that goes undefeated in this day and age of college football is incredibly, incredibly rare. And just last year, look how many undefeated teams are in the country right now. 1?
Oregon.
That's it.
Yep.
So in the last 2 years, there's been 4 undefeated teams, and Oregon's not even done yet. Although they still got to play a Big Ten championship game. But I don't know how many undefeated teams there have been over the last 2 or 3 years. But it's very, very, very hard to do, no matter what flipping conference you're in. Notre Dame is going to get in the playoff, and they lost to Northern Illinois. So maybe we should honor and respect and reward the teams that find ways to win. But instead, it's going to become about, it is about who did you lose to, how impressive were you on this day, what's your best win, blah, 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 blah. Now, it doesn't matter as much because there's 12 teams now. But it
It's making it worse that there's 12 teams. It was a 4-team playoff.
I know, but it's like it's college football. What I knew last year at this time, Aslan, is it's really damn hard to win all your games. It's not like this year all of a sudden became really hard. It was hard as hell last year. In the year before that, in the year before that. But here we are where you're going to have half of the teams in the field are going to have multiple losses. And yet you had a team last year that didn't have any, and you left out because you didn't respect how hard it was to go flipping undefeated. It angers me. Granted, Corey, get it. You're playing your greatest hits. It's 11 months later. The fact that I'm watching a 2-9 football team, it makes me more angry. Like those don't come around that often. Those kind of special seasons don't come around that often. They are magical. And it just got completely crapped on by idiots in a hotel ballroom that don't know anything about what it takes to actually be a deserving playoff team. And now it's going to be like, okay, 1-loss Indiana. Are they going to get in over a 3-loss Ole Miss team? Don't know. I'm going to go ahead and assume the SEC is going to get a couple of teams in before they make sure that 1-loss Indiana gets in. But even then, Indiana lost the game. Anyway.
Lost the game,
yeah. I know. Exactly right. Everybody's lost the game, Aslan. It's really hard to win them all. Yeah. But, Florida State only played 2 SEC teams last year, beat the brakes off one of them, and would have completely annihilated the other one if they had their starting quarterback. But they won with their backup, and they still weren't rewarded.
All right, that's been Wake Up
Sorry,
Warchant.
guys. Sorry. We got to do a postmortem real quick on the soccer team. That was just a really heartbreaking, anguishing, disastrous kind of loss there in the second round.
It's hard to win the games, Corey. It's hard to win all the games, right?
Right. It's not a guarantee, Aslan, just because you show up that you're going to win. And there was some, they did not play all that well. No, there wasn't great officiating, but it was Vanderbilt had 5 shots on goal the whole game and scored on 3 of them. Florida State had 19 shots on goal and scored 3. And then it went to overtime.
Is Roque still the keeper?
No, it's somebody else that did not have a strong outing. And but I mean, losses are losses. They're it's a team sport. A couple of their goals were just incredible. And she did make a stop in the PKs, but the Vanderbilt keeper made 2. And the Vanderbilt keeper is very, very good. And Florida State's season is over. So that was disappointing. I was hoping they'd. But, hey, the women beat the crap out of Florida in basketball.
That's right.
So maybe the football
Coach
team
Brooke,
will take.
Coach Brooke,
get it done. Tanaya Latson leading the nation in scoring, I think, or top 5 anyway. So, yeah, some good stuff going around. Just that maybe the football team can keep it up.
Press conference, Coach Norvell, 11:30 in the morning. Are you going to be listening in live? Or you'll be there, Corey, right?
I'll be there, man. Yeah, I'll be there. I'm in town.
Tapping away at the keyboard. Practice will not be open to the media this week, everybody. It's the Florida game. They're really going after it. So, but we'll have press conference later today. We'll have interviews after practice on Tuesday. I think that's the extent of what we're going to have. But Jeff Cameron show 1 to 4 o'clock. Headlines later this week. We're still going to do a war chant report. Gene Williams still got his ear to the ground on everything that's going on with the hires, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Stay connected to warchant.com. It's going to be fun December, everybody, and we're going to have some fun the rest of this month as well. Thanks for listening. He's Corey Aslan. It's been Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.